and welcome to the Parkinson's Foundation program Mindfulness Monday. My name is Crista Ellis, and I'm the Community Program Manager for the Florida and Gulf Coast chapters. During this time of social distancing, we hope that you are able to stay healthy and safe at home. Due to the evolving situation around the COVID-19 outbreak, we are taking every precaution to look after our Parkinson's community. In our efforts to help you stay connected, the Parkinson's Foundation is providing weekly educational and wellness programs in a virtual format through our PD Health at Home series. Each Monday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time, we will have a live expert sharing their tips and knowledge on staying mindful during this unique time. Every week, we will explore a different topic of how the practice of mindfulness can influence your health and well-being. The Parkinson's Foundation is dedicated to engaging and empowering the Parkinson's community. I am thrilled to be able to share this time during our Mindfulness Monday events with you. Mark your calendars and join us next week, June 8th, on how mindfulness can impact your daily living. To learn more and to register for individual events, please visit parkinson.org/PDHealth. This is new for all of us, so we thank you in advance for your patience while we're getting used to doing things a new way. As a reminder, your questions can be submitted through the chat function in the black banner on the bottom of your viewing page. We will do our best to answer as many of your questions as we can during the Q&A portion of this program. Today's session will be recorded and archived on the Parkinson's Foundation website at parkinson.org/PDHealth. Before I introduce today's speaker, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about the Parkinson's Foundation mission and resources. The Parkinson's Foundation makes life better for people living with Parkinson's disease by improving care and advancing research toward a cure. In everything we do, we build on the energy, experience, and passion of our global Parkinson's community. We provide families with free resources, including our website, parkinson.org, educational books, webinars like today's event, podcasts, a hospitalization kit called Aware and Care, and our toll-free bilingual helpline, 1-800-4PD-INFO. To learn more about our resources and our upcoming virtual events, remember to visit our website at parkinson.org or call our helpline, 1-800-4PD-INFO. Now, to start our event, I'd like to ask you a question. You'll see a question appear on your screen. How many years have you been living with or caring for someone with Parkinson's? Wow, we've got some diversity. Answers are bouncing around. Wonderful. So we've got 40% of you who are living with or caring for someone of 0 to 5 years, 36% 6 to 10 years, 17% 11 to 15 years, and a 7% 16 or more years. So thank you all for joining us today. Now it's my pleasure to welcome our guest speakers who will address nutrition, mindful eating, and what this means for people living with Parkinson's disease. Dr. Delaram Safarpour is a movement disorders neurologist at the Oregon Health and Sciences University, a Parkinson's Foundation Center of Excellence. She serves as co-director of OHSU's Deep Brain Stimulation Program. Dr. Safarpour was recently awarded funding through the Parkinson Study Group for her research on the role of gastrointestinal dysfunction in individuals with Parkinson's disease. Also joining us today, we welcome back Dr. Jeffrey Proulx, an assistant professor of public health and medicine and senior research at the Mindfulness Center of Brown University. Dr. Safarpour and Dr. Proulx, welcome and thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting me to join you on this great session. These sessions are very, very important for our patients. It's very helpful to learn more about the disease and also be connected with each other through this rather strange time. Today's the purpose of this meeting, the purpose of this virtual conference, is to learn a little more about the effect of gastrointestinal changes in the way you eat, and to teach you a few tips on how to eat a little more safely and slowly, and be able to mindfully eat and enjoy the food that you have. We want to, together with Dr. Proulx, do a little trial of teaching you how to be more mindful when you're eating, and we'll go from there. All right, so we want to start with first a question. Do you consider your diet in Parkinson's disease management? Do you ever consider changes that can potentially improve or make changes in the course of the disease? Great, I see that a lot of you are answering yes. The final is that 74% of you have answered that you do think that diet is important in Parkinson's disease, and that's what we believe. There has been several trials throughout the course, several years, to find something that can slow progression of the disease. This is what I always tell my patients. I tell them we've tried so hard to find that medication that will slow progression of the disease, and unfortunately, yet we haven't been able to find that medication that's going to slow progression or stop the progression. And the only thing that we have learned over and over again throughout the course of all these different clinical trials and studies is that the more you exercise and the more you eat healthy is the better for you. We know through many of these trials that exercise is one way of possibly slowing progression of the disease, and the more you do it, the better it is for you. And also we have learned through many studies that the healthier you eat, the healthier you feel, the healthier you be, and the more likely that you can exercise because you're healthier. And there are some studies that show that those who exercise and those who eat healthy will have better cognition and will have better health in general. And so this is the focus of our talk today, to be able to help you think twice about your diet and see if there's any change that you can make to have a healthier diet that can improve your health and possibly progression of your disease. So next slide. What we always tell our patients is that think about eating as whatever you bring into your body is what becomes part of it. You are what you eat. There are several studies that show that the different ingredients of different food that we eat, the more they have antioxidant and anti-inflammatory compounds in them, the more that these ingredients will have better effect on your blood and your brain. And the best way to do this is to eat more sources of these compounds from whole and unprocessed food. Including fruits, vegetables, mushrooms, nuts, seeds, beans, anything that you can add to your diet that's not processed. Different forms of teas, spices, whole grain, anything that grows, anything that's not processed. Avoid highly processed food as much as you possibly can. And try to add as much color as you can in your diet. The more color you add is better. think about it this way, that with Parkinson's disease, there's impairment in sense of taste, and also there's impairment in sense of the smell. So what you used to smell and taste in the past that would make you want to eat that food is now not as strong as it was before, or not present anymore. So it's very important to make your plate colorful. It's very important to make it colorful so that you want to eat it when you see it. So try to use different forms of vegetables, different spices that can make you want to have that dish. Don't spend a lot of money on supplements. Spend it on fresh, healthy food. Food is medicine. Eat what you need to eat to be happy, and try to eat as healthy as you can. Now, on the other hand, there are some of my patients that tell me, I do need to eat an ice cream a day. That makes me happy. And I always tell them, eat it. If it makes you happy, eat it. But know that it's not as healthy as it should be, or not as healthy as the food that I really want you to eat. So eat it as your treat. Instead of eating it 5 times a day, if you eat healthy the rest of the day, that's your treat. Maybe try to reduce it from maybe once every day to once every other day. Give yourself treat. Don't be critical of yourself. Make small healthy changes, but still give yourself credit and give yourself little treats here and there, and enjoy the food that makes you happy. On the other hand, whenever you're making changes, making major changes, or trying to consider different diets, always try to consult your doctor and ask them if this diet is good for you. We can go to the next slide. Okay, so one important question that I want to ask you is, which one is more common in Parkinson's disease? Do you think weight loss or weight gain? Perfect. So 62% answered weight loss and 38% answered weight gain. While the course of the disease is different in different individuals, and different things are playing a role in weight loss or weight gain, usually what we see as a disease progresses is weight loss. And I tell you the reason for it. While at the beginning, especially if you don't exercise, especially if you still can enjoy some of the unprocessed food that you were doing before, that you don't know that these are not great for you, you can have weight gain. As the disease progresses, usually because of the changes that the disease has on the whole GI system, you usually will have changes in your absorption, changes in your digestion, and all of that can lead to weight loss. So weight loss is a common symptom that we see in Parkinson's disease, and we have to learn tricks to be able to avoid it, or to manage our weight in a way that is healthy for our body. And I'm going to give you some tips on that. Let's go to the next slide now. So on the question of what we should eat, what are the things that we suggest that you eat? First of all, I always tell my patients, try to eat at least 7 to 9 servings of fruit and vegetables every day. This includes lots of berries like blueberries, cherries, raspberries, and fruits like apple, pears, oranges, plums, prunes. Now that in summer we have lots of different choices, it's important to eat fresh fruit. Frozen fruit is also acceptable. Dried fruit is also acceptable. But when you're buying dried fruit, make sure that there's no added sugar to it. You make sure that you look at the ingredients on the back and see how much sugar is added to it. You don't want any sugar. It should be just fruit. But the more fresh you eat is the better for you. Eat lots more dark leafy greens. When I told you at the beginning that there are some studies to suggest that those who eat more dark leafy green will have better cognition. That's shown in clinical trials. That's shown in the studies. The more dark leafy greens is better for your cognition. Spinach, lettuce, arugula, these are all very good for your health. Broccoli, cauliflower, and these are all very, very important resources of fresh fruits and vegetables for you. Again, as I said, try to eat more colorful vegetables like beets, asparagus, peppers, tomatoes, carrots, sweet potatoes, squash. All of these colorful vegetables have different sources of vitamins that are very, very good for you. If you're cooking them, steaming or microwaving them, all of these will help preserve nutrients for most of them. On your salads, try to make your own dressing. It's important to try and be mindful of what are the ingredients of these dressings. What are the ingredients of your salad when you're making it, when you're touching the different ingredients of what you're adding to your salad. Here's my celery, here's my tomato, I'm cutting it, or you touch it, you feel the consistency of it. And little by little, by adding different ingredients to your salad, you're encouraging your taste buds that soon this is going to be my final dish. Now, you're going to work on your dressing on yourself and try to make it as healthy as possible. Try to use healthy forms of fat like almonds, flax seeds, walnuts, cashews, tahini, like sunflower seeds, extra virgin or olive oil. These are things that you want to add to your salad as opposed to those pre-made salad kits that come with dressing. And a lot of times those dressings are not healthy at all. So instead of using the dressing, you want to make sure that you make your own dressing and make it as healthy as possible to help absorb the antioxidants that you're eating. On the other hand, in terms of drinking, drink more liquids, including lots of unsweetened tea, white tea, green tea, hibiscus. Try to drink as much tea as you can. But the teas that have caffeine, you want to be sure that you don't drink them too close to your bedtime because they can cause insomnia and not let you fall asleep. Usually we tell our patients to try and drink less dairy milk, soda, or clear fruit juice. Fruit juice has lots of sugar, and we want to avoid that as much as possible. Think about coffee as seed soup, that it's just fine to drink as much of it as possible. And a lot of times when my patients tell me that they have fatigue, I tell them that the best way of fighting back with fatigue is coffee. So you wake up in the morning, you drink 2 cups of real coffee, not decaf, coffee in the morning, and then you go for an exercise. You exercise in the morning, you come back, take your next dose of medication, wait for an hour or half an hour, and then you eat your lunch, and then you try to take a nap, and that way you're fighting with fatigue. Then talking about beans, try to eat more beans, kidney beans, black beans, peas, fava beans. All of these are full of different sources of vitamins and protein, and you want to add that to your diet. Also try to add a lot more spices. Different forms of spices have been known to have different antioxidant effect, and we know that a lot of them are generally very good for our health. Again, instead of buying them in your as vitamins, try to actually add the spices to your food and enjoy the different tastes inside your food. Then same thing about seeds and grains. Try to eat more whole grains like oatmeal, brown rice, barley. We try to eat more wheat bread and less processed grains. These are all very healthy resources. All right, we move on to the next slide. Now, the art of eating, really eating is an art. Getting food and liquids from mouth to your stomach is really a complex process that involves several different systems that need to work very well together. They have to be coordinated, and all these muscles from your mouth to your throat and your autonomic nervous system, they have to work very well together in order to be able to send food from your mouth to your stomach and then further down, that we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. Depending on a variety of different factors, Parkinson's disease can affect muscular control of all parts of your GI system. And this starts from your mouth, really. Common signs of swallowing issues in Parkinson's disease is that patients usually complain that they feel that food gets stuck in their mouth, and they're often feeling that they have to cough while they're eating or drinking, or that they feel that their voice sounds a little wet or gurgly, or their eyes water while they're eating or drinking. People with Parkinson's disease can also lose control of food or liquids in their mouth, resulting in a spilling of it into their throat soon before they're ready to actually send it down to the right pipe, and it goes to the wrong one and can cause pneumonia. So there has to be coordination between when the right pipe opens and is ready to send the food down. But if you send it down a little earlier than when it should actually go in, you may end up sending it to the wrong one. And a lot of times we have cough and symptoms of, oh, the food went to the wrong pipe, but sometimes we don't have that symptom, and that's called silent pneumonia. And silent pneumonia is a silent aspiration. Silent aspiration that can cause pneumonia is actually really a problem in some patients with Parkinson's disease, because food keeps going to the wrong pipe, and then they just don't have that symptom. So as soon as you feel that you have some difficulties with your swallowing, or that at times you have coughing, or at times you feel like you're choking, let your doctor know so they can refer you to a speech and swallow evaluation. And during the speech and swallow evaluation, what they do is that they watch you eat, and sometimes they take pictures to see where actually the food is going. And when they find out when the food is going, if it's going to the wrong pipe, they teach you different tips on how to prevent that from happening. A very common tip that they always give to a lot of our patients is that when you're drinking, for example, if you're drinking, try never to drink directly from a bottle. Instead, try to drink, even if you have to drink it from a bottle, keep it in your mouth. Do not swallow it. Keep it in your mouth. Then bring your chin to your chest, then swallow it. Or if you're drinking from a cup or a glass, drink from it. Keep it in your mouth. Don't swallow it yet. Then bring your chin to your chest, then swallow it. That way, that will prevent the food or drinks to go down to the wrong pipe. That's a very common tip, but a lot of similar tips that are given to our patients based on what exactly happens or where exactly the food goes when they eat it. Now we can go to the next slide. Now, so I already gave you some of what we have on this slide, but let's think about when you're eating or when you're drinking. Try to stay as focused as you can on the act of eating and drinking. Avoid distractions. Don't let so try to have a place where you usually eat and drink, and that place shouldn't be in front of TV. That place shouldn't be in front of radio or a place that has a lot of distractors where while you're eating, you can't focus on eating. It's important to focus on the act of eating and drinking. When you're eating and drinking, try to take small bites and do not talk when you're eating. It's always great to enjoy your meal with someone you love, that's someone that you enjoy their presence, and someone whose presence give you reassurance and whose presence give you peace. That's great. But try not to talk while you're eating. You're actually focusing on a very important task of eating, which is one of our most important things that we do in our life. So find a place where you're at peace. Decorate the plate in a way that you enjoy even seeing that plate. Colorful. Use your nice china and use your nice uh, utensils. Avoid plastic utensils for sure. Use your nice china and utensils. Sit in a very nice and calm place. Take a small bites of food and a small sips of liquid and very slowly swallow it. Clear your throat, and if you feel the food or liquid is caught in your throat, you want to cough gently or clear your throat and swallow again before you take a breath. And you want to repeat this as needed. If you still feel some food is stuck, gently cough before you take a breath, so you don't want it to go down to the wrong pipe. When you're eating, it's very important to stay upright. You want to to be in an upright, seated, or standing. It's always preferred to be seated when you're eating. And definitely 30 minutes after a meal, because you want to make sure that the gravity also helps with taking the food down. You want to make sure you stay hydrated. Some of the medications that you take for Parkinson's disease can cause dryness of your mouth. So you want to make sure that you drink enough water, or if you can't generate saliva production, you want to try sucking on a popsicle or hard sour candy to help that process of production of saliva. We can go to the next slide now. Now, it's very important to eat slowly. And as I said, don't talk while you're eating or drinking. If you can touch the food, it's very, very helpful. If you can, first of all, try to admire the plate that was placed in front of you. If somebody, a loved one, made it for you, it's always nice to appreciate that you appreciate how they have tried their best to prepare a food that you may like. And if it's colorful, if it's decorated well, you want to make sure you appreciate all the beauty that is on that plate. If you can touch the food, touch it. If it's a finger food, it's always good to feel the consistency of food and feel what's going to go inside your mouth, and try to remember what that food used to taste like. Try to remember a good memory that is attached to that food. A good memory of some time that you could smell. What did it smell like? What did it taste like? All of that is very important. Appreciate that little finger food that is in your hand, and as soon you're going to eat it. And try to take a small bites, as I said, swallow it very carefully, and the rest we've covered already. Let's go to the next slide. For better digestion, it's very important to stay upright after your meals. There are several issues that happens with Parkinson's disease. One of them, as I mentioned, is the coordinated act of swallowing. After that, when the food reaches your stomach, the stomach itself is not as fast as it used to be. It's a little lazy. So the food, instead of being processed inside the stomach as fast as possible and then out to the small intestine, it kind of sometimes just gets stuck in the stomach because the stomach is lazy, doesn't want to push it. And when the food sits there, imagine you eat a meal and the food is still sitting in a stomach, you feel like you're still full from your previous meal, and you kind of don't even have an appetite for the next meal. If it's happening very regularly, if you feel like you're completely full, not ready to eat anything in your next meal, it's important to let your doctor know. There's a condition called gastroparesis, means like the stomach, as I said, is lazy, doesn't push the food out. And they can do studies to figure out if that's the case. And sometimes they prescribe medications that will help push the food out from a stomach to small intestine. So if that's a big problem for you, you want to let your doctor know. It's important to stay upright after meals for 30 minutes or so, because you, as I said, you want to let the gravity at least help your lazy stomach. And another thing that is very helpful is deep breathing. Deep breathing exercise strengthens the muscles of your diaphragm, which will aid digestion and help prevent acid reflux, because inside your stomach you have acid. So if your muscles that are responsible in digestions are not strong enough, that acid can find itself higher up in esophagus and later even in your mouth and cause discomfort. So you want to try the deep breathing exercise, and it also as a bonus will help you relieve some of your stress as well. Now, some of you may ask, what's deep breathing? We can do a simple exercise together. You can sit or recline in a comfortable position where you are right now and inhale through the nose. Deep inhale through your nose slowly, letting the chest and lower belly rise as your lungs fill. Very deep inhale, and let the abdomen expand fully, and then exhale slowly through the mouth or your nose. That's a deep breathing exercise. You feel all the muscles that are involved in this process. So try to do this exercise several times a day. You're strengthening the muscles that are important both in your breathing and your digestion. It's important to have regular exercise like walking, cycling, or other exercise that help you move to stimulate the action of your intestines and can improve problems with constipation. The more constipated you are, the less you want to eat anything more. So all those exercises like yoga, for instance, offers the combined benefit of physical activity and deep breathing, and many of the poses specifically target muscles that are involved in digestion. All right, we can go to the next slide. One thing that I always try to remind my patients is that levodopa has the same receptor that protein has. So you want to make sure that when you take your medicine, the medicine goes there and gets to those receptors first, and does its job. If you eat first and then immediately after you take your medicine, what will happen is that the protein inside the meal that you just ate will go sit on that receptor tight, and the levodopa will come and find that the receptor is already taken and will leave. So the medication you took will not be beneficial. So that's why we tell you, take your Cenemet 30 minutes before or 1 hour after you ate something that has protein. Now let's ask you a question. Which part of GI tract is involved in Parkinson's disease? Is it the stomach, colon, small intestine? Is it all of them? That's awesome. 97% of you answered all the above. That's amazing. It means that you are very well educated on that topic. That's the topic of my interest in my career, and that's what I study. Yes, GI tract, all of it is involved in Parkinson's disease. All different parts of GI tract are involved. We can go to the next slide. So here I've tried to show you different parts of GI tract, from the submandibular gland, which is the gland that is important in producing saliva. You know that you don't produce as much, and sometimes the saliva, and sometimes you have drooling, and this is something that you make be questionable for you, that why is it happening. The reason why you have drooling is not really because you're overproducing, rather the reason is you're not swallowing it as much as you should. You're not swallowing your saliva, and if you don't swallow your saliva, it just builds up inside your mouth, and then you will have drooling because your mouth is open. So if you can remember to swallow more, you will have normal like swallowing periods, swallowing cycles. You will not be drooling. So if that's a problem, as a tip, you can have candy in your mouth or gum. You must make sure that it's not sweetened, so you don't end up with having cavities inside your teeth. So that's one problem. Esophagus is involved, the stomach is involved, as I told you, and the small intestine is involved. All the movements inside different parts of the GI tract will be slower. So stomach doesn't pump as fast as it should. The small intestine, the movements inside the small intestine that should push the food forward to get to the colon are slower. Colon, you have a lot of constipation because the food is just sitting there and it's not moving forward. And then some people have problems with defecation itself. When you have constipation, it could be because of either of the process or both of them. It could be because the movements inside the colon are slower, or it could be because the defecation itself is harder, or it's not possible as well as coordinated as before. So these are all the common symptoms that we have. If you hit next, you should have perfect. So that's a picture that is taken from an endoscopy. During an endoscopy, what they do is that with a camera, they look inside the stomach. So when they were looking inside the stomach of a patient who had taken levodopa an hour and a half before the endoscopy, they saw that this yellow pill, which is Sinemet, carbidopa, levodopa, is still sitting in a stomach. The stomach was lazy, didn't push it out. So you can see that people would feel that the medication is not working because it's simply still sitting in the stomach. It's not where it should be absorbed, which is a small intestine. If we go to the next slide, I have some references for you here on the next slide. Some books to read. These are very helpful if you want to read books, and then check out Brian Grant Foundation. They have lots of recipes on diet. And Dr. John Duda was my mentor at University of Pennsylvania, VA, and he's an expert in diet in Parkinson's disease. That's one of the reasons why I am interested in the topic. We can go to the next slide. And back to you, Dr. Proulx.
Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are. It's nice to see everybody. So we were just going to do a brief exercise to kind of take what Dr. Safarpour was just talking about. And I like this whole idea about being much more purposeful and much more mindful when we sit and eat. So I wanted to do a little exercise. We asked everybody to bring a raisin or a cranberry with them today. And I'm in California, so I got myself a strawberry that was freshly picked out today. So I'm going to use that. But what I'd hope you do is to take this opportunity. First of all, let's just, when we're thinking about eating and we think about the objects that we eat, I just want to slow down, like we were talking about just a couple of minutes ago, and take this object and put it in your hand and close your eyes for a minute and just let your mind let go of any concepts or any thoughts. Just let it be clear, focusing on really nothing at all. Maybe your breath. And now open your eyes and take a look at this object in your hand. Now tell me what you see. I'm going to encourage people to raise their hand or make a comment. And take a look at this object. Try to get rid of any name that's on there. Just take a look at it. Someone says, I see blue. I'm in the shadow. I'm too dark, sorry. But also someone says they see seeds. That's good. Because a lot of times what people end up doing when they're looking at this little object is they'll just say, you know, I see a raisin, or I see a cranberry, I see a strawberry. And that's not exactly what we're trying to get at here, is actually taking a look and seeing what you see. So an example, my strawberry here that I have, I see there's some bruises on it. There's the top, it looks like there's some leaf that grows out of it, and it's a little bit shriveled up a little bit. And then when I move it around, I can see some color. I can see some light reflecting off of it. People are noticing wrinkles. Now take this object again and put it up to your nose. And just get a nice sniff in and tell me what you experience when you're sniffing in this object. So for me, I smell a little bit of sweetness. Someone said salty, freshness. That's kind of, well, freshness is that's even a bit too much of a stretch for what we're doing here. I don't know what freshness means. We're trying to get at the raw experience of what is this that we're smelling here. Freshness is a nice overall experience, but tart is a good one. Sweet. And then for a lot of folks, it's just difficult to be able to smell in general. And if that's what you're experiencing in this moment, that's fine. That's just what we're experiencing when we're doing this. Now put it up to your ear and tell me what you hear. Probably not much. So take the same object and just put it to your lips without actually putting it into your mouth. And tell me what's going on in your mouth right now as you're doing this. Maybe what's going on in your nose. Just from the experience of putting this object right up to your lips. It's coolness. And people are noticing that they're salivating. And that's kind of an interesting thing, is that you notice how your body's starting to prepare for perhaps putting this thing inside of your mouth. And it's just amazing, just this one little object just coming up to your mouth, and like we were talking about with this whole salivation process and what goes on in your body in order for us to be able to digest the food that we're going to take in. Notice how your body just starts to make that happen on its own. Now go ahead and put this in your mouth without chewing it, and then just stick it on your tongue. And really experiencing just this raw experience of what it is that you have in your mouth, this one little object. And tell me what you experience. It's soft. Some people are saying. Now, one thing I noticed when I put my object in my mouth is that it starts to change. And if I bite into it, I feel this burst of sweetness. That makes my jaw kind of feel a little bit tickly. Now, chew this object up in your mouth just very slowly and focus in on the experience that you're having in your mouth. It's difficult for me to talk right now because I'm salivating so much. It's hard not to chew it, I know. But you can go ahead and chew it now. And then swallow it. Now, if you had a raisin or a cranberry, you should all feel about 1 cranberry heavier than you did about 5 minutes ago. It's getting softer. As I bite, there's a burst of flavor. These are some of the responses that we're getting back here. Now go ahead and swallow this, and then just sit with your back nice and straight in a good posture. Just breathing in and letting go of the experience. Now, I don't know, we just went through this mindful eating exercise, and I just want you to reflect back on it and think about all of the different experiences that you had in just 5 minutes with this one little object that we had in our hand. And I like to point out that normally when we think about raisins or cranberries, is that how I tend to eat them, and most people I know, we take handfuls of them. We just shove it in our mouth and take handfuls. And this kind of how we consume things. And we're not paying attention to the actual experience of just eating and what that's like. And I like to encourage people the following week after doing this exercise is to take one meal each day and to approach it just like we did this mindful eating exercise. And just with the same exercises that we did, looking at the object, seeing what's truly there, experiencing the smell, experiencing the taste before we just shove things in our mouth, and realizing how unique almost every experience that we have, including eating, can be. And think about the other things that we consume in our lives: relationships, television, media, friendships, whatever it may be. We tend to just kind of stuff these things in our mouths without taking the time to just really explore what's there, to really take the time to listen to it, to smell it, to watch what our experience is in with it. And most people I know that do this experience, when they do that, take this time to do the mindful eating while they're having their meal, tend to report that the meal is more satisfying, that they eat less, and that they just feel much better after having just slowed down and paid attention to the actual experience that's right in front of them, in this case with their food. So what we're hoping is that taking the information that we learned today and blending that in with the actual exercise of mindful eating could be a great way for us to be able to just not only pay attention to the food that we consume, but also just the world around us and how we consume it moving forward. And I noticed that there were a lot of questions, so I just want to kind of move on to that if we can.
Thank you, Dr. Proulx. I believe there's one more slide, Dr. Safarpour, if you'd like to address this.
Let me see. Unmute myself. Okay, great. Thank you so much, Dr. Proulx. And I want to join you in saying how every different thing that we do in life, like friendship, walking, watching TV, every other thing should also be equally important, and we should try to take steps in all different actions that we take, in all these different feelings today, because of the virus, because of so many other things that are going around us. There's so many different feelings around us. There's so many different feelings that it's important for us to be able to process each of these feelings and say, I feel nervous about this, I feel anxious about this, and accept it. A lot of these feelings are normal. And if we didn't have these feelings, that would be abnormal. So give yourself credit for the different feelings that you feel every day as well, and see where the source is. Is there anything you can do to calm yourself down and take actions? Try to talk to a friend, connect with someone that you love. Regarding mindfulness, not only with eating, but also with your exercise, when you're walking, instead of walking and thinking about something that makes you anxious, walk and think about the act of walking. Think about, appreciate how when you're walking, you're able to take each step, and appreciate that you are able to keep your balance while you're walking. If you need a cane, if you need a walker, appreciate that you have those things that will help you with your balance. Pay attention to your breathing when you're walking. If you have tremor, you probably have noticed that if you calm down, you're able to calm that tremor down for a little while. You're able to focus on it and slow it a little bit. These are all the things that we hear every day from our patients. Some of you may have what we call freezing of gait, which means when you want to take the next step, you feel like your feet are really glued to the ground and you want to take the next step, but your feet is really stuck and you can't take the next step. It's always important in order to be able to walk well, instead of getting frustrated about it, just accept that that's what's happening, and then focus on the act of walking. Tell yourself, I want to take that next step. I want my next step to land on that place on the tile. I want to put my next foot, my right foot on the line on the tile. I want to put my left foot now one inch in front of it, a little bit in front of it. I want to walk in this way. Take small actions instead of getting frustrated and lost between your feelings and your loss of coordination in your movements. Take control over small movements and try to get out of that freezing step and be able to walk better. We can keep going about the rest of the daily routines and how it's important to think about the act of, for example, washing dishes, vacuuming, anything that you're doing when you're cooking, when you're chopping food, or doing anything that you enjoy. It's important to take every action and give credit to yourself for doing that. So I think with that, we can open up to questions. And if there are any questions, we can.
Yes, thank you so much, Dr. Safarpour.
Yeah.
And Dr. Proulx, an amazing presentation. So thank you both so much for sharing your knowledge. We have had quite a bit of questions come in. So thank you to all of you for staying engaged and thinking of some thoughtful questions. So we'll get right to it. Question 1, do you recommend we work with a registered dietitian on a regular basis? Is there a certain type of specific or specialty for PD, or is a generalist okay?
So it's very good to have a consult with a dietitian, and always good to ask your neurologist if they know any dietitian who's worked with Parkinson's disease patients before. Do they have a dietitian as part of their team? A lot of centers do have a dietitian as part of their team. If they do, it's always good to have a referral to that person. If not, ask your doctor to refer you to a dietitian, and always feel free to bring back to your doctor and say, these are the recommendations. Do you agree that these foods are the ones that I should really consume more? One problem is that often with weight loss, if there is a consult to a dietitian that is not familiar with Parkinson's disease, they may suggest that you significantly increase the amount of protein that you take. And if you are at the stage of the disease that you're taking the medication frequently, that might interact with your absorption of medication. So that's the reason why you want to bring it back to your doctor and ask your doctor if that's a good option, or what else you can do to improve your weight.
Thank you so much. Question 2, when fresh veggies aren't in season, is frozen a good option?
Yes, frozen is a good option. Try to find places where you can get frozen fruit that you can trust, because not too long ago there was a problem with contamination of some of the frozen fruits. So you want to make sure that you can get it from trusted resources.
Thanks. Question 3. Are sugar substitutes in diet foods as bad as sugar? What do you think about Splenda or supplements like turmeric and cinnamon?
So supplements like turmeric, they're great. They're great if you can. My little children were knocking on the door. So those supplements are great. As I said, if you can use the spice, if you can use the actual spice and add it to your food, that's the best. You can still, I have many patients who take turmeric capsules, and that's also good. That's also acceptable. Regarding the sugar, Splenda and other forms, we try to avoid them as much as possible. As I said, if you really like it, if you really like to sweeten what you're drinking or what you're eating, try to use it as a treat for yourself. Try to train your taste buds that this is a new good. You don't want to make everything sweet. They are not the healthiest addition to our food. I put it that way.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Question 4. Is postprandial hypotension common in Parkinson's? Excessive decrease in blood pressure that occurs after a meal.
Yes. So postprandial hypotension is, as you said, decrease in blood pressure after having a big meal, and that's what of the signs of autonomic changes in Parkinson's disease. Autonomic failure is one of the things that happens in Parkinson's disease. That's when you stand up, your blood pressure drops. That's when you get dizzy when you stand up. That's when you eat a big meal, you feel like you're a little dizzy. That's because there's a rush of blood into your stomach to help the stomach process the food with its movements, but then at the same time you try to stand up and you get dizzy. These are the things that you need to talk to your doctor about. There are times that if it is severe, you need to take medications or have procedures for it.
Thank you. We've got 2 more questions. So let's see, we're just at the bottom of the hour. Let's see if we can get to it. Does a keto diet or eating organic food affect PD? And can you touch on your thoughts about dairy in Parkinson's disease?
First, I start with dairy. The question of dairy comes up all the time. It's a controversial question. We think that based upon evidence that dairy is, if you eat less dairy, you will have better cognition in the long term. So there is some evidence that shows that cognition is related to less consumption of dairy. And there is, with Parkinson's disease, this common recommendation that you try to eat less dairy that's possible. That's one. With ketogenic diet, there's several different studies that have looked at the effect of ketogenic diet. Some studies have shown that some of the non-motor symptoms of Parkinson's disease, like fatigue, like insomnia, they may get better, but the evidence still is not strong enough that we put it as our guidelines and say ketogenic diet is going to slow progression of the disease. Definitely in the preliminary studies, there wasn't any effect on motor function.
And leaving enough time between medications and eating is difficult. Do you have any tips for leaving enough time for food and medication?
If you're eating, so try to focus on the food that has protein inside it, not all the food. So if you have to eat, if you're really hungry, try to eat a piece of bread or some crackers or something. But try to avoid food 30 minutes with before and 1 hour after for best absorption. If it's impossible, if you're taking medication every hour, then that's going to just cause anxiety in you. Just relax it. We don't want to add to the anxiety that you have. See how much you can comply, and don't make it this another stressful reason to worry about if it's impossible.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
A big thank you to our amazing presenters, Dr. Delaram Safarpour and Dr. Jeffrey Proulx, and to all of you who were able to join and participate with us for today's program. I'd like to give you all a virtual round of applause. So thank you so much for you all joining us today. A reminder that today's session has been recorded and archived on the Parkinson's Foundation website at parkinson.org/pdhealth. If you know of someone who may not have a computer but might find this program useful, please share that we do have a call-in option. A staff member could call them at the time of the program, and we'd be able to hear speakers over the phone. More detailed instructions can be found after registering for the program. Again, that's the call-in option. I'd like to invite you all to join us for tomorrow's expert briefing, where we will explore Parkinson's disease and sleep. You can learn more and register at parkinson.org/pdhealth. And if you aren't already, if you feel comfortable joining us on camera and taking a moment to see your Parkinson's community during this unique time. See your Parkinson's community, scroll through and see the faces of the people who are living with Parkinson's disease. Give us a wave, say hello, see your speakers, see your community here today on this Mindful Monday. A final thank you to Dr. Safarpour and Dr. Proulx for your guidance, your knowledge, and your wisdom, and sharing your expertise with us on how to be more mindful in eating and understanding nutrition in Parkinson's disease. Join us next Monday, Mindful Monday, and we'll see you then. Thank you all for coming. Goodbye.